Hi, I'm Tara from Marathon Mates. On this episode, we will be talking about what is next for us all as we move back into training from our most recent marathon at the Gold Coast. We will share what events are coming up for us and what training is going to look like as we head into these events. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
And welcome back to the Flying Runner. This is episode number 57 of the Flying Runner podcast. We've rested up and had some time away from the training track, and now it's time to get serious and really start to focus on what is next for the marathon mates. On this episode, we will talk about our upcoming races, the training we will be doing, and a little bit about how we will attack each of the races. But before we do all of that, let me welcome my co-hosts, Tim and Tony. How you guys been going?
Yeah, good. How are you two?
Yeah, good.
Cold. Winter is finally here.
You can see that I'm just a little bit chilly, but wearing the Australian Outback Marathon beanie because that was held last weekend.
It was indeed. And we were even getting messages last night from a number of the Travelling Fit crews. So even better. So, but yeah, it's definitely that 1 or 2 week period of the year where it gets cold here in Brisbane.
It was freezing this morning.
Yes, and I think it's going to be even colder tomorrow morning. So if you're going for a training run tomorrow, Tony, I recommend tracksuit pants.
Yes, I'd be living in tracksuit pants at the moment.
All these people from the real cold countries are just going, oh my God, you guys are wusses. It's 7 degrees and as our minimum and you're all sooking. So
yeah.
Yes. So how has everything been for the last week? Parkrun training?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
We Sharon's had some bad news, so she's been told she's got to rest for 4 weeks. So that's put a very interesting dynamic. I mentioned last week we were back training together, and it lasted almost a week. So I did 13K on Saturday, just as what I call a base run, and just to see where I'm at. And Sharon can walk, but she can't run, so she walked for 11K. So, and it was interesting because as I'm coming back to the car, I've caught up with Sharon, or Sharon had met me. And she ran probably 500 meters, I guess. And the only time her foot hurt was during that time. So it's she's now resting for 4 weeks, which gives her a 3-week training plan for our next race, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So no park run for me, just a 13K on Saturday. And then I did a bit of a very slow 5K on Sunday because I was actually quite surprised how sore my quads were after that run on Saturday. So I just did a slow bit of a loosen up run on Sunday. So that's the extent of it for me at the moment. And you guys?
Yeah, we did parkrun on Saturday at Warner Lakes Parkrun.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm
trying
to remember where we were.
It's not far from where we live, but as usual, we caught up with friends on the course and saw many familiar faces there. So that one's been a good parkrun. It's been going for probably 8 or 9 years now, that parkrun, and we were there at its very first parkrun and have continued it on. It's a good little event. So that was it. We did our long run yesterday, or on Sunday, our return to training, I guess. So we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly as well. But 21.1K is very slow and steady in the legs. We got it done. Really bad conditions. Oh, not really bad, but bad conditions. It was really cold. It was really strong, gusty gale winds. just wasn't pleasant, wasn't nice to run in, but we got it done. So, and that was the most important thing. Distance beats pace, and that was our motto yesterday. Just get the distance done. Don't worry about the time.
Yeah, and look, Chicago is known as the Windy City, so we've got to get used to training in wind and all the other bits and pieces. So good training for us. Yeah.
And I guess some other news for us during the week we got, and we'll talk about our next race, but everyone knows we're doing Chicago next as our big marathon. So we got our corral assignment during the week, and we are in the K Corral, so the OK Corral. So that was the one you guys were in Tokyo, Sharon and Tony. So we're feeling confident about that. I think what's it go up to? N for Nelly Corral. So we're not at the back, but we're not at the front, and we're not in the middle, but it's a happy little spot where we would like to be. So K Corral it is for Team Ellis for Chicago.
Oh, cool.
It's the party corral.
Yeah. The corrals don't present too many challenges there in Chicago. It all goes pretty quickly and smoothly when once the race starts.
It doesn't look like there's big gaps in between each race start. They're just sort of like a flowing race start.
Like Tokyo, where one corral ends and another one begins, I assume. So
that's it.
Yep. And then I guess the other thing for us, we've been spending a lot of time in front of the telly watching the Olympics.
Well, and, Tim has been.
All the various sports. So we're experts in equestrian, we're experts in skateboarding, we're experts in swimming.
Yeah.
We're experts in what else has been? Rugby sevens. That was quite interesting. We're experts in most of the sports that have been on so far. So including the ones that may not be on as often.
Kayaking.
Canoeing, kayaking. So yeah, that's been the highlight. And I guess over the next week or so, once they switch from swimming to track and field, it will become even more exciting for us. And then I guess the other little bit of news is Lucia is not with us tonight, but will be continuing to join us going forward. So we've had some good feedback there, so we'll keep her going.
Yep. And she did a race yesterday herself, so she'll be recovering from that as well. So, So now we've got the week ahead of what we talk about the news. Excellent. Thanks, guys. So, Tim, what's been happening around the world of running over the last few days?
So the big news for Australia in the marathon world is that Brett Robinson, the Australian men's record holder, has withdrawn from the Paris Olympics due to a glute injury, which means that a runner called Andy Buchanan, I'm not too aware of Andy Buchanan, but he has now joined the team as Brett's replacement. So what I really like about this one was that Brett stuck his hand up, said that he couldn't compete, said that he had an injury, and made the call to Andy directly and phoned him to say, mate, you're in the team. And I really like that. That shows a lot of team spirit and team first type attitude, and something that, is given Brett a bit of good sportsmanship, I guess, amongst his peers and amongst his competitors as well, for not only dealing with the fact that he was injured and out of the dream event, but he stood up and made the phone call as well, which is really good. I like that one.
Yeah, it's a shame. I was looking forward to seeing how Brett went, and I still believe he's such a smooth runner. I just love watching him run. He just never looks flustered, never looks pressured, just very methodical. So, it is a shame that he's had to pull out. So,
So that's one. The other big news is obviously when you're talking about Paris and you're talking about Olympic marathons, you cannot not mention Eliud Kipchoge, and he's come out. He's had a bit of an interview this week on one of the newspapers in Europe, and he's named two things that really stand in the way of him making history in Paris. He noted that the course is probably the biggest challenge for him. It's got lots of hills. It's not a flat course, as he says, and there's apparently a really challenging hill in the course as well that is really steep and is going to really test a lot of the runners. So Kipchoge's quite concerned about that. He's also concerned about the weather in Paris, and it's usually hot in August. So it will make for another challenge for him in order to achieve his quest of top honours at the event. So they're the sort of the big news that he's come out with this week is the course is going to be tough and the weather's going to be tough. He hasn't mentioned that the competition's also going to be tough, but anyway, he has sweet memories of Paris. He says it's the first place he competed in on a global stage back in 2003 when he won the World Championships in the 5,000 meters. And this Olympics will mark his 5th Olympics, which is the first time any Kenyan has ever been able to achieve 5 Olympics. So it is pretty special for him. But, guys, hills and heat, we're all used to it. That's Boston for us, hills and heat this last year.
This year?
But this year. But it's just another awesome combination of what we have to do on a tough event to make it even tougher, I guess. So.
Yeah, I find it interesting he's talking like that, and it's very rare that, from my short memory anyway, that Elliot sort of talks about the challenges that are coming up. So I find it really quite strange and that he's actually talking like that, Tim. So I've got my fingers crossed he does a great job and wins the marathon, but based on that, I'm thinking he's not going to do it,
I reckon he's already beaten if he's already thinking about those things. And
yeah,
got to remember when he ran Boston, was it last year? The hills were the thing that got him. So maybe it is in his mind, and he's a flat track specialist. Berlin is a flat course, London is a flat course, Tokyo is a flat course, and they're the courses he's won all the majors on, and Chicago, but maybe it just is something that he's not really comfortable running on his hills, and it's playing on him.
Yeah,
but you don't know. You don't know. Maybe it's all just a bluff. Who knows?
So, Tony, you've got some news about something that's called Strava jockeys. Do you want to explain that one to me?
Yeah, I actually heard this on a couple of other podcasts, to be honest, and I'm blown away by it. And I'm a little bit what's the word? Confused and concerned that maybe this is the world that we're living in. But Strava jockeys is a term that relates back to people who log runs on another user's account. So in the case, it originated in Indonesia. And what it is fast runners are selling their services to log runs on older professionals who may not have the chance to go out for runs. So they may be too busy. So they're paying people to go out and do a 5, 10, 15, whatever it is. And that fast individual then logs that fast time on the older professional's account. Prices seem to vary by kilometer and pace, and I've got one from Twitter, that a little bit of a screenshot. Unfortunately, our viewers and listeners won't see it, but the ad was simply, "Hey, if you're currently looking for a Strava jockey, I'm interested in running for you. I run a 6:05 pace in the 10K and 5:50 in the 5K. Let me know if you're interested." So, Tim, I don't get this. I really just don't get this. So,
Tim, you could be earning extra money on the side. What are you doing?
No, it's like people who are on social media posting posting random stuff just to achieve likes. That's how I liken this to. The only people that it matters to are those who are that fascinated by somebody else's Strava account. And to be honest, when I go into Strava, I'm looking at my account and I'm quickly glimpsing through somebody else's, and I'll hit kudos, and that's about it. But I don't
ever look at, I might go, yep, Tony, I know that you did 13Ks or 13.34, I think it was, to be exact on memory. But to be honest, I would not remember what your pace was. I don't even look at that sort of thing. I don't even really look at the distance. It's more a case that good on that person for getting out there and being active. Who cares what speed you do or what distance you do? Like, people get a bit hung up over these sort of things.
The only thing I could think with it is if you needed a certain qualifying time or something to be able to demonstrate that you could get into a particular event. And I'm not talking Boston. There's certain checks and balances with Boston. It has to be on certain courses and you have to run it, and there's There's all sorts of things, but I'm thinking other events may need somebody to run at a certain pace to be able to run in a certain corral or be able to do something or to qualify for something. But I just don't get it. If you're that shallow that you're going onto Strava and posting fake runs, then good for you. No one else really cares, and if they do, then they're just as shallow as you.
Yeah, I can see where it comes from, because I mean I'm sure it's like your workplace. We've got some keen runners at work, and we will often just talk about what we got up to and what we ran, and so you can imagine that if you are in a workplace and you are an older professional, as this is purported to be for, that you may feel from a connection or a career perspective that you need to be seen to be doing some running. So I can certainly sort of understand it from that perspective. The positive, I guess, is that it does allow people to earn some extra revenue if that's the way you want to go and be a Strava jockey. But yeah, I think there's some ethics involved there. And, one of the interesting comments that I found about it, usually we have a saying in the running world, if it's not on Strava, it didn't happen. Well, in this case, it turns out that maybe it didn't happen anyway. And it is very important to say that Strava have strenuously suggested that it is a breach of their service requirements. And the magic of the Strava platform comes from the authentic nature of the global running community. So if you are inclined to get a jockey to go do some runs for you, you may get a surprise when you next try to log into your Strava account and it's no longer there. So just giving you the heads up. But I just found it a very interesting scenario, and I think it's more about the social kudos than any credibility whatsoever that some of those runners hiring jockeys think that they may have. So very interesting.
All I know is that I would rather be spending my money on new shoes or race entries than paying somebody else to be running for me.
I will say that while I was training for Gold Coast, I did have a number of people that I do know and were commenting and sending me messages supporting, the difference in paces that I was running at. So I do know that some people actually go in and have a look at things like paces. And while it's something that we may not do necessarily, I mean, I always look to see how someone's consistent they were, or if someone's done a really fast time, I'd like to see where that came from. But I don't go into it in full detail. And I do appreciate those people that actually contacted me and said, well done, I can see you're improving, and et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, it's not the social recognition that I was doing it for. So that was all a blessing on the side, because I knew that there was improvement in my running as I was doing it. But if you need social validation for your run, there's got to be another way than getting a Strava jockey and potentially losing your Strava account. So
no one gave me special kudos yesterday because my average heart rate was 119 beats per minute for 21.1.
Because you're running with me.
You didn't highlight that. You highlight that in the 21K at 119 average heartbeats.
It's true. And
it's what happens when you run with Tara. If anyone wants a slow, low heart rate, come run with me.
Like I can show you. Like I'll...
It's okay, Tim. We don't need to see it. Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it.
115 beats per minute.
There was a lot of walking involved. Let me just put it to you that way. It was very windy and I was not up for running. Yeah. So, and if he wants to stay with me, that's not my problem, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Tim. Now, let's focus on our real topic this week, not your heart rate. What is next for the marathon mates? So, Tony and Tim, what have we got coming up over the next few months? Tony, I'll let you take off with this one.
Yeah, because mine's the easier one, I guess, than you guys.
So what have we got? Where we're up to next, or
yeah. What have we got? We're 7 weeks out from Sydney, and then after Sydney, we're 7 weeks out from New York. So we've got 2 marathons coming up in the next 14 weeks. So that's what's happening for Sharon and I for the rest of this year. And yes, we'll talk a little bit more in depth, but you guys obviously have so much more going on.
I know. I've got to stop signing up for things. It's like I'm like Dory. It's like, oh, look, another race. Let's sign up for it. I've really got to stop doing this.
I think the listeners need to know, is it Tim or is it you that signs up, Tara, all the time?
I think it might be me.
No, what happened? We finished the race, and then the early bird special comes out for next year, and it's like, oh yeah, we better sign up for that for next year. And then before you know it, they all just happen to be on top of one another. So
and then we've forgotten which ones we've signed up for, and it just keeps accumulating. So
yeah, that happens with us too. So
that's all right.
But we have Sunshine Coast Half Marathon on the 11th of August, which is what, 2 weeks away. Maybe? Once this episode drops.
Wow.
Then we have Chicago Marathon on the 13th of October. We're doing the half marathon at the Niagara Falls International Marathon weekend on the 27th of October. And then we just back it up with the lazy marathon through the 5 boroughs of New York on the 3rd of November.
Oh, and you've forgotten another one. We have signed up for a 21K race at the GC50 at the end of November too.
Yeah, at the end of November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why we keep forgetting that one, but New York seems to be the stop for us. We forget about the half marathon we've got after that one. But yes.
Yeah, so that's it. There's quite a lot of races there, but the 3 key ones for us, I guess, are Chicago, Niagara, and New York, and they're 3 races in 3 weeks.
Yeah, unreal.
Awesome. So none of it's fast. It's just going to be finished. Finish line, not finish times. Remember my motto. So, Tony, let's talk about, obviously, with Sharon being a little bit injured, what's happening with Sydney for you guys?
Well, it's interesting because we set up our 16-week plan or 15-week plan, it might have been, heading towards New York. And for us, Sydney's a bit of a run, what I would call a run through. It's a bit of a training run for New York. It's probably the first time we're ever doing a 42K long run in
preparation for another long run.
in prep for a marathon. Yeah. So the plan was always for Sydney just to be a bit of a run through. We're confident that we could probably just, it's a 7-hour cutoff. There's going to be not a great deal of pressure on us. There's other reasons for us to be in Sydney at that particular time. I'm catching up with one of the guys I do my music podcast with, but also catching up with Dad's side of the family. So really looking forward to that. But yeah, we're Sydney's just a train. I know it sounds really crazy, but Sydney's a training run. It's a run through. And if we complete it in 6:15, I think I'll be pretty happy. I'd like to go under 6, but I'm not too stressed about it. But obviously with Sharon being limited now in prep, I mean, she'll be out walking. She did a really good strength session this morning. So she's got other ways that she's going to try and be ready. But, there's no pressure on Sydney, and our focus is obviously, hopefully, on New York. So it's better Sharon rests now and get the bursitis in her toes manageable, then train for Sydney and stuff up New York. So we'd rather be in a position where we're comfy heading into New York. So we've basically got a 15-week training plan with a really big long run in the middle. And then, and once again, we'll take probably a week off after Sydney and then get back into, doing some long runs in prep for New York.
And the good thing is that Sydney will be marathon number 3 for you this year anyway. So your bodies are quite well trained up for it. You're conditioned to that distance so that it's not going to be too detrimental on the body if you do miss some time in between. That muscle memory and your fitness doesn't deteriorate too badly. And especially if Sharon's still walking, I don't think there'll be an issue at all with it.
No, it's a low impact long run. That's all it is. And it happens to be 42.2 kilometers, but it's low impact. So you're right to have a week off afterwards. You're right to incorporate it into your training. And if you do it right, there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you listen to your body and look after yourself on the week or so afterwards.
100%. So, a lot of people may be daunted, doing what all three of us are doing. But the way I look at it is that, we've prepped sometimes really well for a marathon. And what this is a 15-week prep plan for New York, just with a really big long run. So.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, we treated Gold Coast in the same sort of way. Gold Coast to us, the 3 races over the 2 days, or which 5 races, my goodness, the 3 races over the 2 days. Yes, it was a 5K, a half marathon, or a full marathon. A lot of people, as you said, would find that quite daunting. To us, it was more used as a training run for leading up to what we're about to come into, to ensure that our bodies have got that strength, and also if we need to work on anything, we know what we need to work on before the day happens. So yeah.
And I think for us, so our training is, we've got the double marathon. So we've got one in October 13th, and then 3 weeks later we've got New York. And I was just talking to Tara about this the other day. Is Chicago the training run for New York, like what you're doing with Sydney, or is Chicago the one we go harder on and then we back it off and just cruise through New York? And we've got to still work that out. But in our mindset, it's probably, we're looking at both as both separate races, and both that we want to try and get through together at about similar sort of times, I would think, for both of them.
Although New York is hilly and Chicago's not. So we're going to play it by ear on the day. We're certainly not going to be stupid. If I don't feel like running, at a speed that's a 5-hour marathon for Chicago, I just won't do it. I'm not going to ruin what's coming up for especially Niagara Falls and New York.
Yeah, 100%.
Beforehand.
Yeah. So
the interesting thing with last year, as you know, Sharon and I did Berlin, then 2 weeks later we did Chicago.
Yeah.
And we had no idea which was our A race. Everyone's saying you got to choose an A race, and we were just saying, we're going to run 2 marathons,
Yeah.
So and it ended up that Sharon had some dramas in Berlin that probably kept us maybe 15 minutes below where we wanted to be. So potentially it was a 5:45 race for us, doing what we do with the jeffing. But we got 5:59, and then in Chicago, everything went relatively well. So much so that at the 30K mark, we made the choice to slow down and said, let's just walk for a while. And that was a 5:45. So I think, and we actually felt really good for Chicago.
Yeah.
And we had, we started running, 3 days after Berlin when we landed in Chicago, and just a 5, and then we did an 8, and then we did a shakedown, and then we did the Chicago 5. So we probably had 4 runs, but they weren't massive runs, and they were just like loosen ups.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. We felt good for Chicago, and the stars aligned for once. So
yeah, and I guess for us, that's sort of what we're looking at with our training wise between now and then. We've done a lot of training, as Tara said, for the Gold Coast. It was only 3 weeks ago. We've given our bodies a good break for 3 weeks after Gold Coast, and now as I said, we've got back into it. First one was nothing more than just a distance run, just getting 21.1 kilometers into the legs, nothing more, nothing less. And it took us 2 hours 45 or something. Yes, I can't remember the time, but
2:45.
We didn't run it hard. We just cruised it right through it, backed it off, walked a lot of it, and it was just about getting the legs moving again. And now over the next few weeks, we'll keep it at 21 and then gradually move it up to 24 and 27, and we'll probably get to 30, and that's it. We probably won't do as much as we normally would on our training program, because we've got the legs and we've got the muscle memory there, and we don't want to fatigue ourselves too much before we go and fatigue ourselves, if that makes sense. So we'll work up to it. Yeah. We'll make it, but we've got the marathon memory. We've got 18 marathons under our legs. We know there's going to be pain from 25 kilometers. We know there's going to be struggles on the day, but we've got the skills and the knowledge and the experience to work our way through that on the day, to be able to get there and beat the cutoff firstly, but secondly then to enjoy it and get to the finish line.
Yeah, and look, and I can honestly say that Curragh NZ, I don't know how you're feeling with it, Tony, but I've had a massive difference in my inflammation and my recovery from having Cara NZ. Now, I've been on it for 5 weeks. My GI issues have significantly improved, but my post-run and my inflammation has dramatically reduced, and I'm very in tune with things. Some of you may know that I broke my back and pelvis and hip 9 years ago. So after most runs, I know that my body has run 21 Ks. After Gold Coast, after my long run on Sunday, I haven't had to take any of my pain medication, or I don't even feel like I've got any problems. So I'm actually really impressed with how good that's feeling. Now, is it a placebo effect? I don't think so, because I'm pretty in tune with my body, as I said. And even like my GI issues when I'm running, I'm finding it so much better. So whether or not that's it, but yeah, that's helping with my post-run. I don't know about yours, Tony, but yeah.
Yeah, I can say it for me. I mean, I'm enjoying taking the product. I have taken it more for the recovery, but I haven't really tested the recovery, if you know what I mean. So it was a 13K run on the weekend. A little bit annoyed that my quads hurt as much as what they do. They're still hurting today. So, but apart from that, I mean, my respiration feels better, and I used to call it my morning production line. It's still there. So from a GI perspective, I think GI is probably better what the wording I should be using. So, you know, I can't necessarily, I do feel better overall, but, you know, once again, we've been on it now for 3 weeks, I think. And, it seems to be a really good product. So it's doing what it's saying it should be doing at the moment. So, but I'm looking forward to this week doing seeing how I come out of the run on Saturday, where I'm aiming to do 15K. So we'll see what it's like. I will probably have more words on Cara NZ after that, I'd say.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's good. So with recovery, I mean, obviously I'm been talking about my Cara NZ and stuff like that. I also do lots of stretching. So as soon as we've done our long run, we do stretching, let the body cool down, and do some stretching and mobility exercises to ensure that all those muscles are at their prime, recovery rate. When we were at the Gold Coast, we were doing this hot sauna and then the pool. I don't like getting in the pool when it's too cold. Our pool is heated. However, I don't heat it over winter because we put a blanket, like a solar blanket thingy over top. I'm not getting in. I just refuse to get into the pool, so I'd rather just stretch. How about you, Tony? What do you do for recovery? Similar sort of things? Or?
Yeah, just as similar. Just try and stretch her out. After every run, I'll ice my calves and my right ankle. That's the one that always seems to give me some curry. I don't want to keep harping on it, but I did ice my quads on the weekend. So, and once again, that's just, my quads have blown me away, because usually my quads aren't an issue. So
have you changed shoes or anything, or?
Well, I'm back just training in normal shoes. So leading into Gold Coast, I was training a lot in my Kinvara Pros, which is a super trainer with a 3/4 carbon plate. But I'm now just back in my Tempest shoes. So it could have something to do with, not getting that additional spring that I was in a lot of my training runs last time. But it'll come through. I love my Tempest, my Saucony Tempest. They're a great shoe.
Yeah, and it could just be fatigue. You've had a big year already. And still some micro tears and a bit of fatigue in there, and it's just taking a bit longer.
It could be, and maybe my body was looking forward to a little bit of a less impact sort of a training. Now that Sharon and I are training again, and then I've gone out and given it a heavy impact on the weekend, or a heavier impact than what I was expecting.
And you're probably going at a faster speed as well, which all creates those sort of issues.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing for us recovery wise, we've got 10 weeks from once this episode drops to when October 13 is, when Chicago Marathon's on. So with a taper period, that brings it back to, 8 weeks or something like that. We're not going to do what we normally do, which is where we might have 3-4 weeks of running and then have an easier recovery week. We're probably not going to have that in our training program this time. And it will probably be more just that gradual build up to get the leg strength there, but then use the gap between Chicago and Niagara and New York as sort of our recovery. And obviously we'll do recovery shakeout runs, but we're not going to be doing our full training programs while we're over there. We're not going to be going off on a 10K run on Wednesday morning at 7:00 in the morning, because we want to go out and see the cities that we're in at that time. So we'll probably sacrifice a bit of the recovery. Obviously we'll be listening to our body. We'll be slowing our runs down a lot more, so we won't be running for pace as much. We'll be just running for distance and time on the legs in our training. But then with the aim that once we get there, it will be more of a recovery period for us once we're there after the Chicago Marathon starts.
There's also a lot of walking that will be done in between as well, as we all know with sightseeing. You know, you go to any city, and I can guarantee you, before a marathon, I have walked the distance of a half marathon the day before, because it doesn't matter which way you go. I'm having a restful day. You're still out there sightseeing, and you're still looking at things, and you're still too excited to be sitting in your hotel room. So I don't know about everyone else, but maybe I'm just stupid and don't listen to what the suggested ideal thing is for pre-marathons.
I think sitting in a hotel room can actually be worse off for you, because you're running the marathon in your mind. But what we endeavour to do the night before or the day before is at least get into the back into the hotel room probably at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, have a bit of a kip, and then just start to, maybe do some slow stretching and just starting to wind down then. So if we're still on our feet at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, that sort of worries me a little bit prior to a marathon. So
that's when we start our beers.
You guys are different, and as we say, everyone's unique. So I always like to get into the hotel room. If I'm later than 2, I do get a bit nervous, but usually we're just both quite content just to flop down and watch a movie or what have you. Just get through the afternoon. Try and get as good a night of sleep as you can. No one really sleeps well before a marathon, based on my experiences. But but I certainly understand walking around, spending a lot of time on your feet in the days when you're in a new city and you don't want to waste any time and you want to get out and see things. And just getting to the expo can sometimes add an extra kilometre or 2 into your legs on the day. So everyone's different, but it's always good to just be. The key is you want to get to the starting line of a marathon confident that you've done what you've needed to do, confident that you're feeling well, you're fresh, and whatever that looks like for everyone listening out there. Everyone's going to be different. Some people, one of my mates ran Gold Coast after having 9 VBs the night before. I could never do that. And I would imagine most people could never do that.
Couldn't do that.
But he did that and ran 3 hours 20 or something. So some people are just like that, but that doesn't mean that he would be recommending that to anyone as well. So.
Doesn't mean he can do it every time he goes out and runs either.
Yeah, and it was his second marathon, so there was still that
probably
little
half
bit of
your
a
age.
novelty.
Yeah, probably half our age, and
yeah.
So it makes a big difference on age as well. We've noticed. So coming into Sydney for you, we've talked about your strategy for that, Tony. You're just sort of aiming to finish. It's a training run. Obviously, you won't be you're going down primarily, though, to see family and stuff as well and catching up with friends. So you're going to be doing a lot before the marathon as well, or is this going to happen after?
Yeah, we will. We'll be down there, I think, on the Thursday night we get down there, and then Friday and Saturday or it might be Friday morning. Sharon looks after all our travel arrangements, but I know we're there full day Friday. We'll have Saturday that we'll have some free time to get out and about. And then we leave on the Tuesday. So we've sort of got that Saturday and the Monday after the marathon to catch up with friends and family. So really looking forward to that. I'm just looking forward to doing the course and seeing what Sydney's all about. There's this big hype around Sydney, and we all are hoping that it's the next major. And we believe that's going to be the case. It'd just be nice to see the hype around the candidacy and see what sort of a vibe it gets. And to be able to say I ran Sydney before it was a major is just another little tick in the back of my mind as well. So I'm looking forward to Sydney. And as I said, I'm not really worried about what the time is. I'm planning to spend some time with the back end paces, whatever.
Steve, one of the paces for there as well for the 7 hours again, or?
I think Steve is, yeah.
Yep.
So
Cool.
I don't think we'll stay with the 7 hour paces. We'll try and do it in around 6, but once again, it's going to depend on a lot on how Sharon is feeling. And if it's 30 degrees like it was last year, we probably will spend more time with the 7 hour paces than what I'd probably prefer. I still do have an ego, so sometimes I've got to suppress it. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to Sydney. It's going to be cool.
7 hours is a long time to be out on your feet there.
I agree. We did one of the virtual marathons. I think it might have been New York during COVID. And once again, funny enough, I was injured. So that was 7 hours and it was horrible. It was pretty much your walk. It's walking pace the whole way. And there were so many times where I just thought to myself, why are we doing this for a virtual medal? Or, but we did it. But it was horrible. So I would much prefer to be closer to the 6 or under the 6. But at the end of the day, it's fun times, as Lucia said last week. Fun times, not finish times. So that's what Sydney's about for us.
Yeah.
So are you having a taper before New York after Sydney, obviously?
Yeah, we'll taper.
On how Sharon is.
Yeah, we won't be tapering for Sydney. We've got it's a gradual build up from here fundamentally. So going up 3 or 5 Ks each week on our long run from here on in. And then Sydney's just this blip, and then we'll drop down and probably do a 10 or a 15. I think the plan says the week after Sydney, and then build back up towards New York. But we'll do it how we taper. We'll taper for New York, but we won't taper for Sydney.
Yep. And I really don't know what our plan is. I just leave it to Tim, and he says to me, Tara, you're running this distance this week. And it's like, okay, so
as I said, the plan is to build up, gradually. We're at half marathon level now. We'll give it a week or two, build it up 24, 27, and then we'll peak at 30. And probably only do one long 30K run that for this block of training. And then start our taper. It will only be a 2-week. We normally do a 3-week taper, but this year for Chicago, we'll do a 2-week taper. And Chicago then more or less, in my mind, sort of becomes just an ongoing continuation of our training leading into New York. And then 2 weeks later is Niagara Falls half marathon, which is sort of like a taper run a week before the marathon for New York. So we're looking at it that way. It's still something different for us. We're not used to this. We're used to doing back-to-back races over 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, but not do a race a week later, do another one, and then do another one, and have marathons 2-3 weeks apart. That's a new thing for us. We've not done that challenge before, I don't think. We've never done 2 marathons in 3 weeks.
No, I don't think we have.
No. So it is something new, and for us, we're still getting our head around it, but I think the strategy we've got is right, which is just keep building up the distance, don't go overboard leading into Chicago. Use Chicago as a good hit out, like what you're doing for Sydney. Look after ourselves in those couple of weeks afterwards, and then back it up in New York. And I think we'll be fine at the end of the day. The muscle strength's there, the leg strength's there, the fitness is there. As long as we stretch out, we recover. We'll probably have to find a remedial massage guys somewhere in New York or somewhere beforehand to just get all the gunk out of the body before New York. But I'm pretty comfortable we'll be able to get it done. I don't see it as an issue. And, you know, it's just party at the back and fun times, not finish lines. So.
And for those that don't know what gunk is, Tim, explain your gunk. Just in case those.
So just the build-up of lactic acid and all the other stuff that builds up and accumulates in your legs, that just makes them feel heavy and tired and weak over a period of time. So getting that massage and getting it out of there is a good thing.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, Tony, you've done this, what we're about to experience. You did that last year. Have you got any other tips and tricks that you want to share?
I think you're looking at it in the absolute right way. So we had 2 weeks between Berlin and Chicago. You guys have got the 3 weeks, but you're doing that 21K in the middle. So, yeah, I think you're looking at it exactly the right way. And the key is, I mean, you're not fearful of it. I mean, you guys have done harder tasks than what you're facing doing Chicago, Niagara, and New York. So it's not like it's something that's new. You guys will listen to your bodies. You'll know what it needs to do. You'll go for a couple of loosen up runs, get your blood flowing again. And I've got no doubt you'll be jumping out of your skin come New York. And it's going to be just such an exciting time to hear Frankie over the loudspeaker, Frank Blue Eyes, and have the cannons fire at the starting line, and you'll be off. And then you won't be before too long. You'll be across that finish line in Central Park and collecting that 6-star. So
celebrating with you guys and quite a few others that are coming over with us.
Absolutely, it's going to be very, very good. And then the next day I'm off to Nashville. So
yes.
So by the time this episode drops, we'll have 3 months till we get our shiny 6-star. So it's not that far away. So we are excited. We really are hanging out for it, but we've got to do the training beforehand, and we're going to be smart. Like this weekend's going to be a challenge because Tara's not going to necessarily be here. She'll be...
Well, not necessarily. I am not going to be here.
So I'll be doing the training for Tara this weekend. She's going back to New Zealand, and she'll talk about that more next week on next week's episode. But
I won't stop running. It's just that I'll be running in a different spot to Tim.
Yeah.
So we'll be running separate.
She's ducking back home for a quick visit. So I'll have to do the long run myself and make up for it with Tara and practice dragging Tara along.
But who's going to pick me up off the trails now?
But no, I think we've got the right strategy. Build it up gradually. Don't go too hard in this training block for us. It's literally a 10-week training block for us, or 11-week training block. We've got the leg strength there from having done Boston at the beginning of the year, then Gold Coast in the middle of the year. So I'm pretty comfortable we've got the right strategy.
Probably feeling the same as you, Tony, with how, Sharon's got an injury. You've got your calf and your quad issues, but everything will be okay.
Get it done.
Not your first marathon. Yep.
Yeah, it's something we wouldn't recommend to people just starting out on their marathon journey, of course. But we've been there. We've worked through these things, and one of the keys, and we talk about it all the time, you've got to listen to your body and you've got to recover when you can, right? So in the case of Sharon, she was advised 4 weeks off. I said, just do it. Take the 4 weeks off now. The last thing you want to do is keep running through pain because it's going to frustrate us in our training runs. And potentially cause us more pain leading into New York. So it's much better. Take the time, rest up. And she is really motivated around her strength at the moment because that's one of the things that they've said, strengthen up these areas. So she's got her workout all planned. So she's really motivated with that. So she knows she can't run, but there's a lot of things she can do. So Sydney holds no fears for us apart from the heat in the hills. So the heat can stay away. We're still not officially in summer. We'll be in spring. So I'm not necessarily worried about the hills. We'll get through it. So looking forward to it.
And in all honesty, this advice applies to whether or not you're doing a 2K run, a 5K run, a half marathon, full marathon, ultra trails. It doesn't matter what distance you do. You need to build up that distance to it. So my brother is a runner. He runs much faster than I do. However, he gets shin splints. And he gets shin splints because he runs too hard, too fast, and builds up the distance too quickly.
Yeah.
So he knows what the issue is. He is going to run with me when we're over in New Zealand because he's actually coming over with me. But he's like, oh, I've got shin splints at the moment. I'm like, just slow down. Listen to your body. Your body is saying you're running too fast. So, and he's only a 5K runner. So again, slow down. I shouldn't say only a 5K runner. He's not a marathon runner. He runs 5Ks, but he still gets injured because he's going out it too hard, too fast, and not listening to his body. He knows that. It's all good.
Interesting you talking through that, Tara. On one of the recent Out and Back episodes, I talk about consistency, not intensity, especially when starting out in your training block. And a lot of people, especially if you're brand new and you're thinking about getting into running or starting up running, a lot of people go out too fast too soon, hurt themselves, and then they never fully recover because they're always trying to get back to where they were or what have you. It's so much better to get into a routine, do it, get consistent with your runs. Don't worry about going fast. Just get out there and get a routine happening, get consistent. Intensity can come later as you've built your strength and as you're building your endurance. Then you can start thinking about maybe some speed and some tempo work. But just get consistent first. Just if you're starting, go out. If it's a 500-meter run, if that's your starting point, that's awesome. Get out there and do 500 meters and do it on a Monday. Maybe back it up on a Thursday. Try it again on a weekend and just get into that routine and consistency before even worrying about I need to get into tempos or interval runs and everything that you hear and read on the internet. Just get consistent. Intensity will come.
And it's not just consistency with intensity, it's also consistency with building up your distance. So if you, as Tony said, you can only run 500 meters, there is absolutely nothing wrong with just running 500 meters because 500 meters is still better than sitting on the couch. Yep. But don't try and run and go, oh, well, that person over there can go 3 kilometers without stopping and they've only just started. Don't compare yourself to that person. Build yourself up slowly, otherwise you will get injured.
100%. And if you are worried about what other people were thinking, go get a Strava jockey.
Do not get a Strava jockey. Spend the money on a coach if you need one. Anyway, before we finish up, we always get the tip from Tim. So, Tim, what is your tip this week?
So this week we've talked about the challenges, I guess, that we've got of back-to-back races.
Don't make it more intimidating than it is.
So whilst it seems impossible to many people, it's not really impossible. It's not difficult. And it's a bit like what Tony was just saying. You can't run at top speed without first doing some of the earlier stuff. You've got to build that consistency up. And I guess that's the tip tonight is really anyone can do these sort of challenges. Anyone can run marathons day after day or week after week or a couple of weeks apart or, 4 marathons in a year or like what we've done or even the Gold Coast Triple like we've done, right? Anyone can do it. It's about believing in yourself, putting in the effort, putting in the work and building up that foundation that you have in yourself. And okay, you're not going to do it today. You're not going to do it tomorrow. You probably won't even do it in 12 months' time. But if you build up a plan and you build up the foundation, you work your way through it, also looking after your body by eating right and getting enough sleep and getting the remedial massages and doing all the body maintenance stuff.
Ensuring you've got good shoes.
Ensuring you got good shoes and all that sort of stuff, you can get there. And I guess that's my tip is, whilst it seems difficult and it seems what Tony and myself and you're talking about, Tara, is a big challenge to some people, and it is a challenge to us, it's not impossible and anyone can actually do it. So why not challenge yourself, if you are a runner out there, to maybe look at something that is a challenge for you over the next little while and build yourself up for it. So whether it's doing the Gold Coast Double next year, or whether it's doing 2 races or 2 park runs in 2 days or something like that, or 2 5K races, have a look at a challenge that excites you. And there are plenty of challenges out there. There's, the Gold Coast races, there's the Dopey challenges, there's doing marathons. You can do the 7 days in 7 states challenge with different marathons. There's all sorts of things out there, but challenge yourself and see how far you can really go, because like Kipchoge says, no human is limited. And I firmly believe that anyone can do what we do. It just takes belief, training, and, time. Really, that's it.
Yeah. It's and just to support that, and just that whole approach to starting off, setting your sights on a goal and then working towards it. One of the guys at work, Jacob, has been back running now for probably the last 6 months, doing 5Ks, and he's seen me do marathons. He's seen Andrew, our operations manager, doing a marathon at the Gold Coast. And so he set himself a task. So he had a week's holiday, and he came up to me after that today, and he says, I ran 8Ks while I was away. So to him, that was a really big step for him, because he's been focused on the 5Ks. And, Jacob's about a 27-minute 5K runner. So that's okay. But he set his sights now on the Gold Coast 50, because apparently they do a 10K run.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's his stepping stone. So that's where he's focused, and that's what he's going to do. And then he's very hopeful that next year Gold Coast will be doing the half. So it's understand that you can do it if you believe in it, but it is a bit of a journey that you'll be going on. If you think you can sign up now to do the Dopey Challenge in January with 5 or 6 races, then you haven't run for 15 years, I'm probably thinking it's not going to work out well for you.
Or if you do it and you successfully do it, you probably won't run again, because you'll hate every minute of it.
And you'll be too injured to run again.
Yeah.
So be consistent, understand you can do it. Absolutely. We are all unlimited human beings. But yeah, just set your goals and work towards it. So great.
So the takeaway from that is consistency is the key. Don't over push yourself. Don't set yourself an unrealistic goal of running an ultra if you have not run more than 5Ks before in the next, say for example, you want to run an ultra by the end of the year and you've only run 5Ks, it's probably not a good idea to start thinking that way. Set yourself realistic goals.
Smart goals.
Yeah.
Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and in a time frame that's achievable.
That's exactly it. So
that's it.
It's like weight loss. It takes a while and it's annoying, but you'll reap the benefits at the end.
Yep.
So excellent. So thanks for that, Tim. Very good tips. This episode is about to end, but Tony, do you want to talk about what we're doing next week?
Yeah, thanks, Tara. On next week's episode, we're going to talk about the things we feel and the things we've learned from some of the best runs that we've ever done. So, yes, I can honestly say I've had some great runs. I sometimes joke that if you're not following me on Strava, please do. But I'll sometimes joke that how come that easy run did not feel easy. But I have had some good runs, and we will reflect on some of the races from the past where we'll share what went well and why. And conversely, there'll also almost be likely that there'll be some discussions around the key learnings where things didn't necessarily go to plan, and we've certainly heard about that. So, but how we've used those learnings to improve us for efforts going forward. as usual. I'm expecting it to be a great episode of The Flying Runner, and one that you should not miss.
Excellent, excellent. So thanks, Tony. So that wraps up our episode tonight. Once again, I'd like to thank you, our listeners, for joining and listening to us. Obviously, thank you, Tim and Tony, for joining me tonight. If you like this episode or just the podcast itself, we would really appreciate if you could like the episode and leave some comments. And if you want to wish us all the best for the ramping up of our training, that would be really appreciated, because there's some days there that I need all the encouragement I can get, not just Tim dragging me out of bed, but if everyone else is doing it. So as Tony said, if you want to follow us on Strava and push us along, we're always happy for that. As usual, video of this episode will be available at Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be on Apple and Amazon and most other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
See ya.